On February 19, 1942, 35 Japanese warplanes roared over the naval fortress of Surabaya, only to be intercepted by 8 barrel-shaped fighters flying straight into the storm. Western aviation historians often label the Brewster Buffalo as the worst fighter of the Second World War, but in the skies of the Dutch East Indies, this stubby aircraft stood as the final barrier between the Empire of Japan and the richest energy reserves in Asia. The strategic crisis began in May 1940, when mainland Netherlands fell to German forces in just 5 days, leaving the Dutch government in exile, isolated in London, and entirely cut off from its resource-rich Pacific colonies. By July 1941, the United States, Britain, and the Dutch imposed a total oil embargo on Tokyo, reducing Japanese strategic reserves to under 18 months of operational fuel. To sustain its military machine, Japan needed the 8 million metric tons of crude oil produced annually in Sumatra and Borneo. Desperate to defend a vast archipelago with an underfunded force, the Royal Netherlands East Indies Army Military Aviation Branch negotiated urgent contracts for 144 Brewster B339 fighters from the United States. However, production delays and global supply chaos meant that, by December 1941, only 71 airframes had arrived to equip the frontline squadrons. Flying obsolete airframes against elite Japanese naval aviators, these colonial pilots were handed an almost impossible tactical mission to protect an empire already on the brink of collapse. Before we go on, what would you do if you were ordered to fly an outmatched fighter into enemy skies? Drop a comment below, subscribe to the channel, and tell me where you are watching from. When Dutch pilots conducted initial flight trials in mid-1941, the mechanical reality of the Brewster B339D proved alarming. Due to United States government export restrictions on frontline military hardware, the export fighters were stripped of top-tier engines and fitted instead with Wright R-1820 Cyclone civilian powerplants. These engines delivered 1,200 horsepower at takeoff, but output dropped precipitously at operational altitudes above 4,000 meters. The addition of 54 kilograms of steel cockpit armor and self-sealing fuel tanks pushed the empty weight to 2,059 kilograms, severely crippling both acceleration and roll rates. The technical mismatch became glaringly obvious against Imperial Japanese naval aviation. The Mitsubishi A6M2 Zero Model 21 enjoyed a top speed of 533 kilometers per hour and a rapid climb rate of 15.7 meters per second. In sharp contrast, the overloaded B339D struggled to reach 512 kilometers per hour and managed a sluggish climb rate of 12.7 meters per second. More critically, the Zero could complete a horizontal turn in roughly 12 seconds, whereas the Dutch Brewster required 19 seconds, rendering traditional dogfighting an act of tactical suicide. Recognizing these fatal shortcomings, ground crews at the Andir Airfield Workshop in Bandung initiated drastic battlefield modifications. Master mechanics stripped out the heavy wing-mounted 12.7mm machine guns and replaced them with lighter 7.7mm FN Browning weapons, shedding 45 kilograms of dead weight. Squadron commanders strictly ordered pilots to scramble with no more than 60% fuel capacity during interception sorties. This desperate weight-saving measure reclaimed 1.5 meters per second in climb rate, giving pilots at least a narrow fighting margin to survive the coming aerial onslaught. Combat experience in December 1941 quickly forced Dutch squadron commanders to rewrite their tactical doctrine. Early engagements over Singapore and the oil installations of Palembang proved that attempting horizontal turn fights against nimble Nakajima Kai 43 fighters meant certain destruction. In response, Dutch pilots adopted a strict boom and zoom doctrine, utilizing cloud cover to ambush enemy formations from above before diving away at high speed to avoid counterattacks. The ultimate test arrived on February 19, 1942, during the massive Japanese air raid on Surabaya. First Lieutenant Gerard Dable led a flight of 8 B-339 fighters scrambling from Semplak Airfield to intercept 35 enemy aircraft, including frontline Mitsubishi A6M2 Zero fighters of the elite Tainan Air Group. Diving from 4,200 meters, Dable engaged the formation, using his machine guns to shoot down one twin-engine bomber and one Kai-43 fighter in rapid succession. Moments later, 3 Zero fighters closed in behind Dable. 20mm cannon fire shattered his canopy and ignited the wing root. However, the heavy American armor plating behind his seat and the self-sealing fuel system protected him from fatal harm, allowing the wounded pilot to execute a successful forced belly landing in a nearby rice field. By early March 1942, relentless attrition had brought the defense of Java to its breaking point. When the key airfield at Kalijati fell to advancing Japanese ground columns, only 3 operational B-339 fighters remained at Andir Base. On March 7, 1942, these 3 surviving aircraft took off on a final interception sortie against more than 50 enemy bombers. The following morning, on March 8, Allied command officially surrendered the island, and ground crews systematically destroyed the remaining airframes to prevent their capture. When military historians evaluate the short-lived campaign over the Dutch East Indies, the raw combat statistics directly challenge the reputation of the Brewster Buffalo. Across 4 months of intense fighting from December 1941 to March 1942, Dutch B-339 pilots claimed 55 confirmed aerial victories against Japanese forces, including 15 frontline fighters. Although 30 Brewster fighters were lost in air-to-air combat, this produced a positive kill ratio of roughly 1.8 to 1, outperforming every other Allied Buffalo unit in the Pacific Theater. The tactical lessons gathered from the defense of Java yielded far-reaching strategic consequences for Allied air power. Dutch aviators who escaped to Australia transferred critical technical debriefs directly to the United States Navy and the Royal Australian Air Force. Their real-world combat telemetry confirmed that no Allied fighter could defeat the Mitsubishi Zero in a sustained turn fight, cementing the universal adoption of the thatch-weave formation and high-speed diving tactics. These operational insights directly influenced the doctrine used by Grumman F-4F Wildcat pilots at the Battle of Midway and accelerated the engineering demands for the Grumman F-6F Hellcat. The legacy of the Dutch Brewster B339 stands as a profound case study in defense procurement and tactical adaptation under extreme pressure. An aircraft widely dismissed as obsolete by its own manufacturer achieved meaningful defensive success when flown by disciplined pilots who understood its mechanical limitations. The sacrifice over Java delayed the southern expansion timetable of the Japanese military, buying precious weeks for Allied defenses to consolidate in Australia. Was the failure of the Brewster B339 primarily the result of flawed American industrial design, or did strategic isolation and poor Allied logistical planning seal its fate before the first shot was fired?